when you first start reading music, everybody wants to dive in and start learning, you know, where's A and where can I find B and blah, 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 blah. But before we do that, what I want to do is discuss note values. You know, we need to understand fully how long notes last and how we recognise that when we're reading them on the staff before we start slotting them into place on the stave. Now, if I was to do that in a video alone, it would probably be awful short. So I'm also going to add in time signatures, bars or measures, and bar lines as well. First thing I want to go into is note values. There's two main naming conventions for this. You've got a sort of typically British way of doing it, and then the rest of the world, almost the whole of the world, actually uses a slightly different method. And I think it's crucial to understand both of them because, well, one, you never know who you're going to be talking to, and also when it comes to time signatures, a way that I use to teach and to understand time signatures involves using we'll call it the American way. So let's just have a look at them. We'll start with the longest first, and it looks like this. Okay, I've been calling them semibreves all my life. The other name is a whole note. Okay. Now, typically in early time signatures, this lasts for 4 beats, but what you need to understand is really the relationship between the different notes. So if I half the value of that, the semibreve or the whole note, I then get a minim or half note. Now I've drawn two there just so you understand that there's two of them go into one whole note. So then again, this is a pretty standard table actually that you'll see whenever you search note values on the internet. It's a relationship thing. So when we half the value of the minim, you know, we can get 2 into the minim, we get a crotchet, also known as a quarter note. Okay, now I'm going to just start narrowing things down because I don't have a big enough screen to actually write this on. So if we then half the crotchet or the quarter note, we get a quaver, and it's known as an 8th note. I don't know if I'll spell this right. I think that's right. And then again, if we half the value of the quaver, we move down to the semiquaver, which looks like the quaver, but it's got 2 bars across the top. Semiquaver, and believe it or not, it's a 16th note. Okay, so that gives you an idea on the basic note values that were covered. You can actually go shorter than that, and you can go longer than the whole note as well, but they're much more advanced, and you probably won't see them for a very long time in your playing. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is time signatures. Now, generally when you find a time signature, it will be at the very start of the music, and if the time signature doesn't change throughout, then that's the only place where you'll find it. If some pieces will change the time signature, and if you see that again, you'll see it once, and it will stay at that time signature until the next time you see another change. But generally, when you're starting off, you will get just the one time signature at the start. The time signature is broken down into 2 parts. So if I take a really common time signature that you'll find when you first start your music, 4/4. Now, the 2 numbers mean 2 separate things. The top number, which is always the one that everybody finds easy to get, is how many beats are in the bar. So how many beats? Of course, obviously in this time signature there's 4 beats in the bar, but the question is, what is 1 beat worth? Now that can change depending on what the bottom number is. Again, 4 is the most common one that you'll see at the start. Now, if we go back to the naming convention that we were talking about earlier on, not the crotchets and the semibreves and all the rest of it, but the whole half and quarter and 8th notes and 16ths actually, then that's what helps us figure out what 1 beat is equal to. So if I just mark that down the bottom, we've got whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, 8th notes, and 16ths. All right. So if we're looking for a relationship here on what we are looking for 1 beat to be worth, we are looking at this number here. We can tie that directly to this here. and we know that one beat is equal to a quarter note, now, or as I would call it, a crotchet. One beat equals. Now you can get a number of different time signatures, but if I just go into a couple more just for the sake of covering stuff, we have, well, 3/4, right, which is another common one at the start, or 2/4. Again, we know that these top numbers here tells us the beats in the bar, and we know that the bottom number is equal to a quarter note, so each beat is equal to a crotchet. All right. Now, once you start to move on a wee bit, you'll start to see time signatures like this, and that is, we know that that means there's 6 beats in the bar. But the bottom number, if we go through the grand scheme of fractional notes, you get this, and then you get and 16th. We know that one beat is equal to a quaver. Okay, if you've got any questions or comments you'd like to make, you just shove them down below. If you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate that. Last thing I want to cover in this video is bars and bar lines. And I suppose the question would be, if you have a 4/4 time signature and you put 4 crotchets, what happens then? We need to kind of, we need to have a mechanism that gets us back to 1 again, if you like. So if I go for the typical 4/4, and if I draw in 4 crotchets, we've used up our 4 beats. So how do we write music that is more than 1 bar long or 1 measure long? Well, what happens is we draw a bar line, and then the whole thing starts again. All right. If you look at any sort of music that you're learning to play, then you'll notice that there's multiple bars. When you start off early, there might be 2 bars or maybe 4 bars, then it moves up to 8 or 16, and it can go on for a long time. So this is how we control how the music is structured. And the last thing is, how do we know that we've come to the end of a piece of music? Well, we've got our 4/4s, and we've got, I'm going to be really lazy, we've got all 4 whole notes, and that's all we want to play. How do we know? Well, what happens is we get a double bar line at the end. All right, that just tells us that we've finished our music. Hopefully you found this useful. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you soon in another video.